We're talking about a billion-dollar food fraud scandal, children going hungry, political excuses, and a state that seemingly got bullied out of oversight.
The House Oversight Committee demanding Minnesota Governor Tim Walz hand over documents as we learn new details about the investigation into the $1 billion welfare fraud scandal.
$1 billion in welfare fraud. That's not a rounding error. That's entire government fell asleep at the wheel money.
And new reports claiming Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar has deep ties to people who personally profited from.
And now they pull Ilhan Omar into it. This just jumped from a Minnesota paperwork disaster to a national political scandal. We're talking campaign circles, not random grifters.
From the alleged fraud. That list includes one of her former campaign officials and a co-owner of the restaurant where Omar held her 2018 congressional victory party.
Campaign official and the guy who hosted her victory party? That's not I shook his hand once. Those are people you actually work with and trust.
It is important to note the Congresswoman has not been directly linked to the fraud herself.
And here comes the legal disclaimer. Important point. She hasn't been charged. Association isn't proof, but politically, having your orbit tied to this kind of heist is brutal optics.
Joining us now is the Speaker of the Minnesota House of Representatives, Lisa DeMuth, who joins me now. And Lisa, thank you so much for doing just that. $1 billion in taxpayer dollars essentially lit on fire. What is your reaction to this staggering fraud scandal that has rocked your state?
For the last 7 years, we have looked at fraud that has exploded under Governor Tim Walz in autism services, feeding our future.
If food programs and autism services are both getting looted, that's not just one bad grant. That's a system where nobody's checking the receipts anywhere.
The food scandal during the COVID time is the largest COVID food scandal, taxpayer money waste in the nation.
The hell of a trophy. Every state was scrambling, and Minnesota still managed to fuck it up worse than anyone.
And we've been sounding the alarm over the years. We're finally getting that national attention that we need so much here in our state to have full investigations. But you're right, it's over $1 billion in taxpayer dollars that have gone out to fraud instead of going to the people that needed those services the most.
Once you slap the Harris Walz logo on screen, this isn't just Minnesota drama anymore. You're asking voters if they want this whole shit show parked in the White House driveway.
Tim Walz is up for re-election. What are residents in Minnesota saying about this?
Tim Walz is up for his third election here in the state of Minnesota. People were surprised when he was reelected for a second time. But when he was on the national stage just a year ago, it really let the nation know truly who Tim Walz is.
She's basically saying the VP audition backfired. Instead of coming home a hero, he came back as the guy who let $1 billion vanish on his watch.
Definitely let Minnesotans know his favorability is underwater right now. It's less than 50%, and it's mostly because he has not handled fraud and he's increased our taxes and fees and spent through a record surplus.
Raising taxes, burning through a surplus, and then losing billions to fraud is like a political speed run on how to piss off every taxpayer on fucking nightmare difficulty.
You say that $1 billion could just be the tip of the iceberg. Pretty big iceberg. What do you mean by that?
Yes, and that is what we've heard from the acting U.S. attorney in the case, specifically looking at some of these things. That was said by acting attorney, U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson. He said this could be just the tip of the iceberg.
When a U.S. attorney calls it just the tip of the iceberg, that's prosecutor speak. For we know this thing is big as shit under the surface, and we're not done.
It could push north almost to $2 billion.
If this really hits $2 billion, that's not just fraud. That's generational money gone. That's schools, roads, clinics, and kids' meals turned into someone's bullshit shopping spree.
Again, these are taxpayer dollars that have been stolen by fraudsters here in the state of Minnesota.
Well, in 2020, according to the New York Times, the Minnesota Department of Education actually questioning Feeding Our Future, which is one of these fraudulent organizations, about all the requests that they were making. And the organization actually threatened the state agency and said that if you don't give us what we want, we're going to sue you, accuse you of racism. And
This is the most dangerous part. They weaponized accusations of racism to shut down questions. That kind of shit destroys real accountability and hands crooks a fake moral force field.
I don't think we really want that kind of negative press. And the state agency caved.
They were more afraid of a "you're racist" press release than billions stolen. That's fucking upside down governance. Fear replacing basic responsibility.
That's just one example of the brazen nature of all of this that took place over the course of 5 years. Why do you think this took so long to uncover?
I think there's been a lack of accountability at the very top of our state. You know, if threats were made such as those, you still push through investigate the fraud and
Call me whatever you want. I still need to see the receipts. You guard taxpayer money like it's sacred, not like it's loose pocket change.
stop the fraudulent payments that were going out. That is not what we've experienced here in the state. That is the change that we need from the very top. We're grateful that we've got federal partners that are coming in to truly investigate.
When a state politician starts thanking federal investigators on TV, that's basically admitting, we fucked this up so badly, Dad had to come down the stairs and take the controls.
A number of these cases and look into the records, but accountability starts at the top. So that's with the governor and with his commissioners. That's not what we've experienced here in Minnesota.
Well, speaking of the top, of course, Governor Walz has been questioned about this now that it's been uncovered. And here he is talking about why he believes this took place in Minnesota. Watch this.
Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Well, certainly I take responsibility for putting people in jail.
I take responsibility for putting people in jail dodges the real question. The money was stolen on your watch. You don't get fucking credit for closing the barn after.
Governors don't get to just talk theoretically. We have to solve problems. And I will note, it's not just Somalis.
He's the one bringing up the community unprompted. He sounds defensive as hell. Everyone's scared of the word racist that nobody did their damn job.
Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota is a prosperous state, a well-run state. We're AAA bond rated, but that attracts criminals.
Did he say they got robbed because Minnesota's successful? Criminals chase money, but you left the fucking vault open. That's not success, that's negligence.
Those people are going to jail. We're doing everything we can, but to demonize an entire community on the actions of a few, it's lazy.
Calling it lazy to ask where the money went is backwards as hell. Lazy oversight caused this mess. Hard questions are basic accountability, not cruelty.
So he says that this took place in Minnesota because he's doing too good of a job. What do you think about that?
Her face says it all. She looks like she's silently begging him to keep talking on national TV because he's absolutely nuking his own defense.
AAA bond rating is not what criminals look at if they're going to come and do criminal behavior here in a state. What I would say is a well-run state, a generous state, and a prosperous state.
So that's where we are. Billions gone. Officials terrified of headlines, not fraud. Was this incompetence, or did people look the other fucking way?
A well-run state does not attract criminals.